Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And if you guys stay after the talk, I'll be signing code. So just... my talk today is about automating marketplace integration and a hacker's approach to it, because not everything was so easy. So who am I? I go by MakeItHackin, or you can call me Andrew. I'm on all these social medias. My links are on my beacons page. If you want to check that out, take a picture. I hack out of curiosity. I sell hardware. This is my second Supercon. Last year was amazing. I had a wonderful time, and I've gone to DEF CON before, and I thought DEF CON was my favorite conference, but Hackaday is such a different animal, and this place is great. Everyone's like the same mindset here. And this is my newest cat watching me program Arduino. All right, so I'm not gonna really go over the schedule too much. This is just for like logistics or whatever, but I'll be going in this order. Questions at the end, please. And I got permission to go a few minutes over, so hopefully I'll try and get done at 11:40, but we might go a little over. All right, trigger warnings. Web designers. Is anyone a web designer here? Okay, you probably aren't gonna like me too much. You might find some things like not lining up or whatever, and I just needed something that works. So I used an app that I'll talk about called Streamlit to make my program, and this wasn't originally made for other people, it was just for me. So there's that. And when I show you data and like shipping labels and stuff during this talk, just know that I'm not doxing anyone. Everything is simulated data that's in this talk. And then the documentation, and so there's some hard-coded variables. I tried to clean up the code as much as I could. It's on GitHub. You'll see the link at the end of the talk. So I think all the hard-coded stuff's out of there, but if you want to try it out, just know that if you see some error, you might get something like that. And it worked on my machine, so. All right, who sells on Tindie or has sold on Tindie? Okay, cool. What about Etsy, Shopify, Electrons, any other things like that? Okay. Who's currently selling on more than one marketplace? Two? More than two? More than three? How many? Two? Okay. So I sell on 4, and so this kind of like combines everything into one. So this is really good for like if you ship on multiple marketplaces, or it was mainly spurred off from Tindie, because Tindie doesn't have a lot of good options for sellers, as like shipping and fulfilling orders, as you Tindie folks might know. Does anyone currently use any third-party software to integrate with their stuff, like shipping or anything like that? Has anyone written their own scripts? I know a gentleman in the back has. He was talking to me about that. But has anyone else written scripts for Tindie? Okay. And does anyone still actually like purchase post-its at post office? Because my brother still does that. My twin brother and me are not alike, and he'll go to the post office. I'm like, you could just like print out a label online, right, and not have to wait 20 minutes. All right, so the problem. My problem was that there's all these different marketplaces. I sell on the 4 to the left, but if you have all these different marketplaces, you might have to log into a lot of them and fulfill your orders from there, and that can be logistically, takes a lot of time. The other problem that you might run into is even if you're only on one marketplace, you might get a bunch of orders, and now especially with like a platform like Tindie, since they don't have a shipping integration and you have to fulfill everything manually, you spend a lot of time fulfilling your orders rather than doing the fun stuff. So I'm going to define workflow automation. Workflow is a series of activities to complete a task, and the automation shifts that to a software program. So the automation part is identifying those tasks, creating a rule and code around that to automate it. All right, so we're going to watch a movie, and this is me manually fulfilling an order through Tindie. And just note that when I compare things in this talk, I kind of have everything ready to go. So the time that you see that it takes to complete it is basically the fastest you can do it by hand. All right, here we go. So this is Tindie. I already have the order page up, and I started my time clock. And so I'm looking to hear the additional instructions because the customer might have said something. Okay, so now I'm going to create a shipping label, so I copy their name. It's cropped off a little bit, sorry. I'm putting it into the shipping software that I use for one-off labels. This is called Pirate Ship. So you have to copy everything over manually. Note that Pirate Ship did kind of autofill a few things, so that was cool. Rubber stamps are things that go at the bottom of the labels. It's like a little custom thing that you can put, and I usually put the order number there just so I can keep track of it if I lose the label, and then like a thank you note. And note that I already have like my ship from and the package details are kind of already saved. So then you hit get rates, and it's going to pop up the different rates available. It's kind of defaulted to the slowest one, which is ground advantage. And so I hit buy label, and the label is done, and then I'm going to print the label. So this is me printing it. You have to select the printer. And then you take the tracking number that you got from your shipping software, paste it into here, and then I'm also printing an invoice from Tindie. You can see how much time this is taking for one order. So I didn't hit shipped because I wanted to save this data for later. But it took about 1.5 minutes. And that's not too bad if you're just doing one order here and there. But imagine you just got 100 orders and you want to fulfill them all. Okay, so the stats for this is it took about 1.5 minutes. Like I said earlier, is an ideal scenario. It is prone to human error because you're copying and pasting. Etsy has the lack of shipping integration, so you're required to go outside of their program to do all this stuff. And you have inconsistency with branding and shipping. So as long as you're just shipping from one marketplace, it's not too bad. But when you print the Tindie invoices, they have the Tindie logo on them, which is cool to promote Tindie, but it doesn't have any of your own personal company logos on there. So if you wanted to put your company logo on there, none of that is there. And I have what I call Lady Ada goals for this, is that Lady Ada from Adafruit, she's the head of the company, and she doesn't fulfill orders. She designs the new hardware. And that's what I like doing. So I want to try and do as much automation as I can to spend as least time on fulfilling as possible. All right, so some people do something called using a script to fulfill their Tindie orders, because Tindie does have an API. It's very limited, but you can do some stuff to make it faster. So a lot of people do this. So this is a Python script that I have running, and it's going to basically download all my orders. For this example, it's only one order, but it's going to download them. It's going to create a CSV file. Then you can take that CSV file, go to that shipping software, and like I said, I use Pirate Ship, but some other people use other programs that do this. I've already matched my codes for my CSV file, the headers, to the shipping software. So you can, literally have 200 orders ready to go and import them all like this. Sorry again for the crop. It's being cut off a little bit, but it's basically the same steps from here on there. The only problem is okay, now you still have to print all your labels. You still have all the tracking numbers that you can either copy paste over if you don't do anything different, and you still have to print all these invoices. So getting the shipping labels created is a little bit faster, but everything after that is basically the same time. And it looks like our clock is cut off, but you can see down here if you squint that it was at 59 seconds. So that was just one order. It does scale a little bit well if you have multiple orders, but you're still requiring a human. It's less prone to error. And you can kind of tailor your script to filter your orders, because let's say you don't want to ship all of one different kind of product. You can kind of write that in the code, which product numbers you want to filter or not. So there are many Tindie stores that use this method right now. A solution that I came up with is this web app that I'm calling the Automated Marketplace Interface. We'll go over into some of the fields kind of later on, but this is kind of the layout. So it uses a Python package called Streamlit, and Streamlit's a really easy way to take Python and turn it into a website. And you can either host it locally or put it in the cloud. Mostly everything that I do is hosted locally, and especially this one. I'll talk about the cloud later. All right, so this is what I call one-click ship. Oh, I think I skipped a video. Yeah. Okay, so this is me currently. If I have an order at Tindie, I'm selecting the order from the drop-down. It's running on a Raspberry Pi, so sometimes like the refresh is a little slow, but I'm just clicking ship package right there, and you'll see a shipping label spit out and then a receipt at the top, which I'm using as like an invoice. So no copy pasting, everything's done on the back end, and I'm going to refresh the page, and you'll see that the Tindie order's been fulfilled. So it's put that that tracking number in there, and that's the printout. And then this is just like another view of that, but just a close-up of the actual software so you can see it a little bit better. And this is running on my Windows machine, so it's a little bit faster. But right now it's making all the API calls in the background, and it's done. So you went from 1.5 minutes to 14 seconds. So you can imagine just as you scale to hundreds of packages, that this can get very fast. So here are the different layout kind of like of the program. In the top yellow box, you have kind of like the order list and kind of like all the details. So you have your order ID, the person's name, the product that they ordered, quantity, options, all the order information is on each row. To select an order, there's a separate drop-down, which Streamlit just changed some stuff. So I think I'm going to change the drop-down where you just click on a row instead of having to drop it down. And then in this box down here is the person's name and shipping. And then in the blue is kind of like your shipping variables where you have like box sizes, package weight, shipping methods, that sort of thing, and then you have the different buttons in the red box. So one of the options you can do is you can, if you don't want to ship it yet, but you want to see how much something will cost, is after you select an order, you can hit Get Rates and Verify. It will verify the address, and then will also, kind of similar to that manual order that we saw, it'll show you the different prices for the different shipping methods. And this does select the shipping method that the person chose when they checked out. So if they chose first class, it'll auto select first class, or if they checked priority mail, it'll automatically check priority mail. Part of the manual thing too is if they choose another manual, or if they choose priority mail, you have to remember when you're filling out that order information, like, oh yeah, this person wanted priority mail. It doesn't do it automatically. And then the tracking number is provided at the bottom once you ship it. And if anyone's ever shipped a package on Tindie, or they put in a tracking number and they were like, oh crap, that's the wrong tracking number, there's nothing you can do. You can't edit the tracking number in Tindie. But with this, you can, and I'll talk about why it works. But if you just put in another tracking number down there and you hit fulfill order, if it's a Tindie order, it'll update the tracking on Tindie. So one benefit of this is you can personalize your stuff. So I use a receipt printer because it's fast and cheap. So I have my MakeItHackin logo on there, and also put the little logo on the shipping label. That's an option you can do. And this is a quote from a recent customer. He said, dude, you got a receipt? I love it. I was like, cool. I like that people like that sort of touch. Another option that I have, this box in here are all the different other features of the software, and we'll get into those during the talk. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about my hacker mindset approach to this. And so first we have to kind of talk about APIs. So an API is an application programming interface. It's a layer between systems to process data. And I don't claim to be an expert, so if I get some of this wrong, feel free to correct me during the questions, or if you have any questions, let me know. But we have GET requests, where you're getting information from a server. You have POST requests, where you're sending information and getting it back. And then there's different formats you can send that in, JSON or HTML. So the different marketplaces offer different levels of API scope. And so Tindie, you can only get your orders. Lectrons, which is a Tindie clone, it looks like. You can get your orders, but also your products. You can post your order fulfillment, so that tracking number you can update via API, and the product inventory you can also update on Lectrons. For Etsy, you can do a lot of stuff. You can get your orders, get your products, get shop, shipping profiles, and also post all of those things. And then Shopify probably has like the best API out there, although it's, you have to like dig in the documentation for how to use it all, but it's pretty extensive. For the marketplaces, when they have APIs, they're great. You have to authenticate with an API key, and some APIs require something called OAuth 2.0, and Etsy uses this, Twitter, DigiKey uses this. It's more secure, but it's kind of more annoying if you are lazy, because you have to do like a few steps in order to get. You're not really using an API key. You're using like an access token, and they expire, and you have to get new ones. And to automate, that's kind of annoying. And then the API scopes varied by app, as I was saying earlier. And some apps have APIs that are public. So those ones that I listed on this slide, those are all public APIs. There's also partner APIs, where if it's like business to business, you have APIs to integrate with them, and then like the public don't really see that. And then you have internal APIs, which only that company uses, and they don't try to expose that to the public. So for Tindie, to post that tracking number, like I said, they don't have a post request for you to do that. So you have to reverse engineer some stuff. And there are different tools that can monitor these API calls, because when you go to a website, there's all these APIs calls being made that you don't really see. So you try to trick the website into thinking that a regular user is interacting with it when you're actually just automating it. Be careful if you do this, because it may be against the terms of the use of the website you're visiting. I created an app to track stock of Flipper zeros, and I was doing a lot to this one website. Not too much, but they banned my IP. So don't be spammy. And some websites try to like track if users are doing this. So if someone's making thousands of requests per second, like obviously that's not a human. But you can use it for scraping or bots. But like I said, be respectful. Don't make thousands of requests per second. All right, so this is a demo on how to reverse engineer an API call the manual way. So the demo that I'm going to do is with the Tindie tracking number. So you're going to right-click, go to Inspect Element using Chrome, go to the Network tab, and then I'm going to go back to Tindie, and I'm going to fill out my message, put in a tracking number. I'll just write a custom message here. And then I click the shipped button. And if we go over here on the thing, we'll see this post request. So that's the call that's being made. If we go to the payload tab, that's the information being sent to the server. If you right click on that, you can go to copy curl as bash. And that will copy that whole kind of sequence. Now I'm using a program called Postman, which is a tool to help out with API calls. Paste that in there, and it generates a Python script automatically on the right-hand side. You can also do other languages, but I use Python. So you can copy that, and like I said, this is getting kind of cut off, but you can paste that in here, and then I'm going to edit it, which may be out of view of here, but I'm changing the tracking number. It ends in 484. I'm going to change it to 85 here, just as kind of like a proof of concept. So right now I'm just reformatting it to Python and filling out the payload. So if you see here, it's 84. Now I change it to 85 on the end, and I'm editing the message to the user that's slightly off screen, but you can see the cursor at the top kind of changing. So I'm going to run that. That's some HTML you're getting back, and I refresh it, and you'll see that it said hello world at the end. And if I go to track the package, you'll see 85 on the end instead of 84. So that's how you know that that thing's working. And you can do this on like any website. That's how you can do a reverse API call. So I use this so much that I wanted to build a tool into this. So this is one of the features where it's kind of like a demo right now. So it's got a demo in there where you just click run, and this is looking at Flipper zero stock. But on the left, there's a curl command that you can paste from Chrome. On the right, it puts it into Python, and then when you hit run script, it will run that Python script. So again, this is for like the Tindie orders. We changed it here. We get our status code of 200, which means that it was a good package. And then if we come back here and refresh, I think I changed the tracking number and message again so it says hello Hackaday now. And if we go to track your package, it should say 86. Okay, so reversing APIs is cool. Sometimes it can be a problem because since we're not using API keys, which are like passwords, we're using cookies. So browser cookies are how you stay logged into websites. So when you go to Facebook or whatever, you don't log in every day. It usually keeps you logged in for a while. So there's a cookie stored on your computer. And you only have to re-authenticate if you use a new browser, a different device, or if you clear a cookie somehow. But they do expire. Some last longer than the others, but they could be days or months or sometimes years. So reversing the API request, they allow use of that cookie outside of your browser session. So you're basically trying to pull it down, store it in like a text file or something, and use it elsewhere. So apps usually do not try to prevent this, but there are ways of them trying to see if you're doing this sort of thing. So like I said earlier, if you're spamming it a lot, that's like one way. They also can check your browser header that you're sending. So there's some other tricks that you can try. If you run into roadblocks, you can search on the internet and see those other ways. But since they don't use API keys, like I said earlier, additional action is needed if you need to get a new cookie. And with Tindie, it seems like their cookie expires after 7 days. So this is how I automated that. This is using a Python package called Selenium, and it's automating this browser session on the left-hand side. So I've already stored my Tindie username and password, and it's acting like me, and it's going to the Tindie promotion page, and it's trying to create a promotion code. And I'm not really trying to get the promotion code. I'm just trying to get a valid login session where I'm getting that cookie back. And so now I have my cookie. All right, so part of the other problem that I had was not just fulfilling orders, but making the hardware. So some of the hardware that I sell is customized, and I need to upload code to Arduino in order to do that. So in this movie, I'm going to show you me doing it the manual way on the right-hand side and with my code on the left-hand side. So I have the Arduino over here, and in the order notes, the customer said, hey, I want to use these different variables in my code. So I have to like copy paste it into Arduino and do that sort of thing. So you can see this just a little bit. I saved 20 seconds, which isn't a whole lot, but this is just a proof of concept. These are 6 variables that it's just a text thing. You can imagine if you had those things, but you want to do a lot more complicated art, that you take those 6 variables and create something awesome with. Usually it saves me, if I did everything the manual way, when I used to do it, it would take like 10 minutes to complete a custom order, and now it just takes seconds. So again, this was an ideal scenario. The manual way doesn't scale well with complexity. It's prone to human orders, but the automated way, very little human action and can scale. And this is just kind of like a demo of that tab. So you select your product or your order, and you can see the order notes have been parsed over into the left-hand side. So we have variables 1 through 3 on the left and 4 through 6 on the right. You can also select a product if you just want to not have it do per order, but per product. You can do that. There's an upload button that you can, right now it's just uploading to an Arduino Uno, but you can do it to anything you want. So that's the custom code that's in the bottom, so if you want to check anything, it's loaded that. You can clear your variables, you can reset them or set them to defaults or whatever you want. Again, this is a proof of concept. My version is slightly different for what I do, but you should be able to take a look at this and configure it to how you need it. This is an example of a default order, so these are the default values And that uploads a lot quicker because I have like hex files that are, I just upload the hex file and I have to compile it. So I have custom orders and default orders. Okay, I think that's enough of that. This is just a demo of kind of like showing that how that works. So I'm going to select one of the products here. Again, this one's running on a Pi, so it's a little bit slower on the refresh. But right now I'm just uploading, I think this is a default code to that Arduino Uno. So I'm opening the serial monitor, and I just have it kind of printing out the variables there. And then I'll select a custom order from the dropdown. And you can see it's, again, it's going to load in those personalization notes that the person has put into the marketplace. So Tindie has a spot they can put order notes in, or Etsy. All of them kind of have some spot like that. And so it's uploaded, it's compiled, it's uploaded the custom code, and I open that up on the serial monitor, and you'll see that stuff here. Hackaday Supercon is awesome, but it's difficult to get a hotel. At least this year it was. All right, so you can also fully automate this if you want. This is what I'm calling zero-click ship. I don't use this really, but it's just a proof of concept. My order pace right now is good enough for me to not have to use this. But if you get a ton of orders, this would be cool. So I think we have sound. This is the only movie that requires sound. But it's just like a little script that runs, and when you get an order, it flashes some lights, and I have a speaker playing music on there, but it's no biggie. And then automatically prints out the label and receipt. And that one is meant to run on like a cron job or something like that. So again, that's just a proof of concept. This is the hardware that I had set up for it. So I have a couple like orange traffic lights, a police light, a big speaker, and then the speaker's just running off a little audio amp. Everything's powered by 12 volts, and got a Raspberry Pi 4 running it, go into a relay to turn on the lights. So some thoughts during this, just a quick funny thing that happened while I was trying to film the demo. I got everything ready, and then I like waited a week to actually film the demo. And then when I went to film it, which was like a few days ago, it wasn't working. And I was just like, oh my God, like I really wanted to show this thing. I spent all this time working on it. Worked like till midnight trying to figure it out. Couldn't figure it out. And so I was like, okay, sleep on it. Woke up, next day, spent a couple hours on it. Turned out that the lights and the speaker were drawing so much current that it was, the problem was that and the label printer were on the same circuit, and they both draw a lot of current. So the label printer, I guess it was just having an issue, and it would hold the label to be queued later for some reason. And so as soon as I plugged the lights into another socket, it worked. So just FYI. So full automation is great if the situation allows it. It obviously can scale very well. I would run this on a cron tab on the Raspberry Pi, and it's ideal for non-custom products and then like known weights and package sizes. But how would you automate the code upload? Maybe that's not too easy, but at least you could do the label part. Some side effects of auto-fulfilling is what happens if you run out of shipping labels? Or what happens if you run out of ink or paper? Like, you have to kind of think about that. Or if you go on holiday, or there's a family emergency, and you have order fulfillment going on, people are like, where's my thing? And then there's also no review or validation of that order. For me, like I said, like customers put in notes, and you're not reading those. But again, if your situation allows for these sorts of things, then it'd be cool to use. And something that happens to me often when I automate things is you forget how to do things. If it's just running and it breaks, it's like, wait, how do I log into Tindie? I forget. So some additional features are, I'll go into shipping. This is the platform that I use, Ship Engine. There's ShipStation, Shippo. There's a few versions that people use. This one's pretty cheap. You can see the prices. I definitely don't ship over $1,000 per month, so you pay 2.5 cents a label. To get tracking, it's like a penny. So it's not that much money. You can do international shipping. These are the couple different labels, and I'll talk about the difference between these at the end. but the one on the right has custom built in, and that's all built into this app too. You can kind of customize what you want the customs to show up as. Etsy requires a couple things for you to write on the package. So if they've paid VAT tax or sales tax for Canada, they require that you write that. So when I get an order for those countries, I have it configured to print out in the receipt, and I just tape that in the box. I'd like to switch that out to a label that I can just peel and stick, but this is working for me now. I do have a tab called mass order fulfillment. So if you wanted to do like a bunch of shipping at once, this is a place to do it. There are some of these things that you'll see down here. It says in development equals true. This is just kind of like a showy thing right now. So it's not built in yet because I don't really need it, but I figured out other people might. So you can fulfill orders by product type, ship by date, if it's domestic, international, that sort of thing. Manifests are pretty cool. Has anyone used these at a post office before? So if you have a bunch of orders, you have to go to the post office, or maybe you could schedule pickup. But if you don't want to wait there a long time, or you don't want to take up their time, you can print one of these, and it takes all those tracking numbers. Instead of scanning every box, they can just scan this one page, and all those tracking numbers are linked to this one page. The shipping labels tab shows you your shipping labels and your manifests. So in case you need to avoid any labels, sometimes you might have to avoid a label somehow. So you can do that here and manage your manifests. The manifest part is just kind of showy right now, but I plan to update that in the future. Packaging, this tab, you can put in your box sizes and your different kinds of bubble mailers that you use, and also the different carrier settings. So when right now I just use the post office, but if you wanted to use FedEx or UPS, you could put all that stuff in here. For inventory, I saw someone comment on Twitter like, oh, that'd be cool if you could update your inventory. So right now this only works with Electrons because they have an API that allows you to update your inventory. But my thing that I want to do here is one place where you can manage all your inventory. So if you have 100 of a product, you can update that here, and it would push that number out to all the different platforms. It's just a zoomed in view. I want to do price too, and if I can, like not only the products that are in stock, but sometimes you might have options of those products with different inventories, so I plan to do that too. Another thing that I do a lot is communication with my customers, so I get pretty good feedback on communicating with customers, and here's a little secret. I don't really talk to them. It's my code. But I get a lot of people like responding back like, oh, thank you so much, because I write these emails, and because everything's scripted and have all their information, I can write the email in such a way that looks like it's personalized. So I kind of do that in a different way, but I wrote this tab for this talk. And everything works right now except for the send the email to customer button. That can be linked very quickly. Just had to get everything ready for this talk. But you would drop an order down, and you can see right now this is just kind of like a very basic message saying, hello, John. It's parsed the first name. Thank you so much for your order. And it's filled in the email subject like that. But I was also like, oh, that'd be cool if you could like generate an AI email. So I linked it up to OpenAI. Hit generate AI email, and the prompt wasn't too complicated or whatever, so you could get like a lot more special with it. But you can just see here it said, hey, thank you for your order, and it just kind of like goes into all these different things. I had it say if it was international, like tell them it might take a little longer, because sometimes the international people are like, hey, it's been 2 weeks, and I'm like, you shipped the slowest shipping possible. It's going to take a while. I did kind of look at chatbots, and it seems like a good idea. There's a lot of tools out there available, like OpenAI and other things, but you got to be aware of what they call hallucinating. If you have zero interaction with the customer, I think that you have to have extensive data training on your data set to do that. A little story for this is, like I said, the bot that I wrote for the Flipper locator, Flipper Zero Stock, on Twitter, you could tag it and say, hey, when's the next restock? And before I had AI integrated with it, you had to craft the tweet in such a way that it could parse it exactly and give you that information. But then With AI, you can kind of just say like, hey, give me this person's request and say this sort of thing back. But sometimes it would tell them the wrong information. And then they'd reply back and be like, oh, wait, what are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. And then I'd have to reply back manually and be like, oh, yeah, that was written by AI. I'm sorry. I also have a tab for promo codes and discounts. This doesn't work right now. It's just a proof of concept, but I want to integrate it so you could manage all your promotions through the different platforms here. So you can create promo codes, push them out, or discounts. There's a settings tab where you can configure all your environment variables. Right now, there's only 2 of these things actually working, so don't worry. These are none of my API keys here. But right now, there's a environment configuration file locally, and that's what it's actually using to store all your API keys. But I like to kind of like push it out to here in the future. And there's just also a notes tab for whatever reason. Usually I'll put like notes like, oh, I want to update this tab. So I figured it'd be cool to have a little notes tab that you could just kind of keep notes on. For security and privacy, I feel like there's a few things to talk about, especially there's a lot of info-sexy people here. So protect your cookies. Your cookie is your browser session. You might have heard of cookies getting stolen and being used to hack some company. Like I said earlier, when you log into Facebook or whatever, and you don't have to log in the next day, it's because there's that cookie on your computer. So if someone has that, they can pretend they're you. So make sure you're keeping these things local. Don't post them on GitHub or anything like that. Also, if you're using those kind of like reverse things, just remember the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. If you send out your cookie with HTTPS, you should be good. If you do it with HTTP, it's exposed. And then local hosting versus cloud. So I run everything locally on my computer. I don't really have a need to run it in the cloud because I'm working from home anyway. But just kind of be cognizant if you host this in the cloud, what about your customer data? Like people don't want all their data all over the place. So just something to keep in mind. And yeah, how do you purge your customer data? So that's something that I'm currently looking at is, everything's local on my computer and I delete files after a while, but it'd be cool to have some sort of option to like auto delete the customer data after you're done. And then keep in mind when you're shipping things out that when you ship something, you're going to need an address, a phone number, and an email address. So I use a PO box, I use a burner number, and I use kind of like, it's my regular, but I don't, not my personal account, but I use my like company email to send these things. And sometimes your phone number does get printed on labels, so that's why I have a burner number. I don't want people calling me. Some tips and tricks, use a proper shipping label printer. They're pretty cool, they're pretty fast. And you can do your branding on the rubber stamps, which was those couple lines on the bottom on the shipping label. And when I used to print everything out on a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I was spending a lot of money on paper and ink. But when I switched over to the receipt printer, man, my life became so much better, and everything was faster. One thing that I kind of keep in mind is my box sizes versus my mailbox. So usually the stuff that I send is pretty small, so I know exactly kind of like which box sizes can fit in my mailbox, so I don't have to go to the post office. I try to go to the post office the least amount as I can. Like I said earlier, the manifest will save you time if you have to go to the post office, so you can just combine all your shipping labels onto one piece of paper. Bubble wrap pouches versus roll. So I used to buy rolls of bubble wrap and wrap all my orders in there, but I noticed that I was spending a lot of time tearing the sheets of bubble roll. So now I buy pouches, even though I don't need the pouch, but it just comes in like a 8.5 by 11 kind of frame, and I can just fold that nicely. So just something to keep in mind. Personalized communication is really cool. Like I said, customers love that. Shipsurance, that's usually the insurance company that all these shipping companies use. Do a little bit of research into it. One time, I haven't had to use them too much. I ship all my international orders with insurance, and I only had one claim, and it was kind of a pain to kind of deal with. One takeaway is just note that when you do shipsurance, unlike the post office insurance, if you want to get the money back that you paid for shipping, you have to include that in the insured value. I only insured it for the pack for the item, and that's only got what I paid. So I still out like $20 for the shipping. So, but if you insure another $20, then you'll get that back too. And then global shipping versus standard international. So if you saw earlier, there was those two international labels, the difference between the two, and you have to sometimes specify with the shipping provider which one you want. The global shipping, you don't really have to deal with customs too much, and it goes to like a big warehouse, and then they ship everything out from there. But standard international, it goes from your door straight to the other person. I always like doing the standard, even though sometimes it's a little more customs work, but it gets to the customer sooner. So sometimes if you do global, it takes like another week or so. So it doesn't really save you too much money doing the global anyway. Before I take questions, if you want a demo, feel free to find me. I got it on my computer. We can talk about automation or circuit boards. That's the GitHub link for this project. I just uploaded everything this morning. I'm still working on the documentation, so bear with me. There's my social links, and do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
You have 4 different companies that you work with, Tindie. The other ones, what differentiates or why do you decide which company to use this for different products? Or?
Yeah. So the question was, why do I use 4 different companies? And it's basically about the audience. So for Tindie, we have like everyone here, and Hackaday makes Tindie. That's a very specific electronics audience. Etsy, you just have people who don't know about Tindie. So Etsy is a very good platform. And with Electrons, I just wanted to kind of try them out because I saw them on Twitter, and they're basically like a Tindie clone. But hey, why not? They have the additional API call where you don't have to reverse engineer it in order to fulfill the order. So I wanted to try that out. And then Shopify is what I use to integrate with YouTube and Instagram and different platforms. So like I said, Shopify has the most granular APIs available. And so if you need to integrate with other platforms, then they can link to your Shopify store. And so that's why I use all those. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, so the question was, during international shipping, if a package gets held up at the post office, and this has happened to me a few times, I'll tell a story. I think it was in Dubai. Someone was ordering. It just got held up there, and the customer, sometimes they know about it, sometimes they don't. This customer did know about it, and they just couldn't figure out that. And that's part of the job that I don't like a lot, is like having to track orders. Like, that takes a lot of time. So I don't have anything automated right now, but you could do that. So with the Ship Engine API, you can do like a requested tracking update API call. So one thing you could do is run that maybe once a day for all your orders that are in transit. And if something has like maybe it's been a certain amount of time that's over a threshold, or maybe the tracking status comes back as being held, then you could auto-generate an email and send it to the customer, and maybe to yourself to be like, hey, this order has an issue. Usually I just don't do anything until the customer contacts me, but that's a good idea to automate that sort of thing. Yeah, and with the one in Dubai, the person was like, I think I shipped 3 packages to them because I felt really bad. And they never got them. And then 2 years later, I got the packages back. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like the first version of a thing that I made. And I was like, I can't remember how I used to do this, but it's kind of funny. It's like a little time capsule coming back to me. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. Enjoy your Hackaday and enjoy lunch.